Welcome back to Face the Nation. Ahead of the first anniversary of the Trump administration, we have CBS News YouGov Nation Tracker poll results. CBS News Elections and Surveys Director Anthony Salvanto joins us to break down the data. Welcome, Anthony. It's always great to have you back. Let's start just with the headline of this survey. What's the headline?
Well, people think the economy is doing better than it was a year ago, but that's not how they're evaluating the president. They're evaluating him personally and whether or not they like how he's handling himself personally. You know, in fact, a year ago, we asked people how they would look at this president, and that was what they said they were going to look at. Over time, there's a bit of a what might have been to his approval ratings, in that we had this middle group of the country who at the start said that they were either conditionally supporting the president or they weren't supporting him, but they were looking for a reason to come over to his side. Well, that middle group has shrunk over time, and it's moved toward the polls, where he's got a small group of very firm supporters and a now larger group of very firm opponents, whom we've called resistors. Well, as people have moved to those polls and as they've moved towards resistance, you talk to them and they say they admit the economy is doing better. They think manufacturing jobs are returning. But when they evaluate the president, they use words like they're embarrassed. They don't like how he's handling himself, and that's what affects their judgment.
And these are people you've looked at over the course of a year. I mean, you've been looking at the country for a year. This is a view you've taken over a long period of time. Those who were conditionally potentially open to supporting the president, was the economy what they were looking for from him? What was causing them to get over those personal hurdles in the first place?
Yeah, the conditionals were more focused on policy. The conditionals said not just cut my taxes, not just bring manufacturing jobs back. They've said that those things are happening. But at the same time, then you talk to them about the political fights that they see going on. They don't like those as much. They don't like the tweeting. They never have. They would rather see things focused on policy. His best numbers came when he started cutting deals with Democrats. And now, look, by definition, you're going to bring over more people if you do that. But for those conditional supporters, those were the kinds of things that they were looking for. When they got it, things moved up. But at the same time, those folks who were more on the fence, who were looking for a reason to support, they feel like the president has disrespected people like them. And it underscores just how personal this has been for a lot of folks.
So it feels like the personal focus of all these responses has put an asterisk on or changed James Carville's famous thing that it's the economy stupid, that if you can get the economy right, everything else falls into place. Let me ask you about this. What is the country now going into this next year? What are their priorities? What are they concerned about?
Yeah, well, we talked about this. We asked people, if you could give the State of the Union, what would you say? And while they would say the economy is doing better, most folks said that they felt like we were divided. And back to this point about the personal being involved, the president's opponents feel like not just he's disrespected them, but for many, they feel like he's working against their group in particular. A lot of our African-American respondents felt like the president was working against their group. A lot of folks felt like he was working against their economic class. Remember, we saw a lot of people vote for the president because they thought that he would do well by folks who had been left behind by the new economy. Well, that's only at best mixed. There are a lot of folks who feel like he hasn't addressed the needs of folks who are more working class, and that sort of moved them away. Again, very personal, very group-based.
Well, so if people are feeling personal and they feel like the president is threatening their group, there is, though, that group of core supporters who think, finally, somebody's speaking for me about this president. How big is that group, the president once referred to by saying I could shoot somebody in Fifth Avenue and still have support? How big is that group, and is it at the same size that it was a year ago when you started this project?
It is a little bit smaller, but not much. It is at 18% now. That is the core of the core. We've labeled them the believers. They think things are going terrifically. They believe that the president is making their culture and their way of life safer. They think that he is, and they say that he is, bringing back jobs. All of those things are going well. But the big difference for them is that they seem to relish the political fights that they see, while others, including his other conditional supporters, do not. They prioritize taking on the media, they want him to investigate Hillary Clinton. That's what they see going forward. And that really separates them from the rest of the group. So as it's gotten a little bit smaller, it's gotten a little more intense.
Let's talk about Democrats for a moment. They see big chances in 2018 to take advantage of this unhappiness with the president. Let's first of all, the unhappiness about the president. Where is his overall approval rating, and what do you find about that?
His overall approval rating has been in the high 30s throughout his presidency. In fact, if you look historically at the history of the CBS News poll, we have not seen a president whose numbers have moved so little in the course of the first year. Most of them move much more. That tells you a story about polarization. It tells you a story about division and how folks don't change the way they're thinking very often. But at the same time, if you look at the Democrats, and as we head into a midterm year, they cannot, the numbers are clear, they cannot simply be a default choice for people who don't like the president. When we ask folks if they'd consider voting for a Republican who was who was more independent from the president, another third of folks of independents say that they would. So the Democrats are still in play there with a group that could consider somebody, more moderate, or could consider what they will do. And when you ask folks, what do you think the Democrats will do if they take power, people are split. They say, well, will they go after the president, or will they try to work with the president? And they get more potential votes from people who say they will try to work with the president.
So there's a danger for Democrats making this all about Donald Trump, because there's some voters who want to see them work with the president. All right, Anthony, thanks so much for being with us. And we'll be right back with our panel.